The vast emptiness of Sector 47 stretched before the Vindicator, like an endless canvas of darkness. Commander Arlen Graves stood on the bridge, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as he gazed into the abyss. The year was 2187, and they were now at the edge of the solar system, in the region where the Draconian fleet had mysteriously vanished 50 years ago. "Approaching coordinates, Commander," announced the pilot, her voice cutting through the tense silence that had settled over the bridge. "ETA 5 minutes to the outer perimeter of the designated search area." Graves nodded, his eyes never leaving the void before them. "Any readings yet?" "Nothing conclusive, sir. Sensors are picking up debris, but the field is too scattered for detailed analysis at this range." Dr. Rena Solis approached the viewport, her slender frame casting a long shadow across the polished floor. As the Vindicator's xenolinguist, she specialized in decoding alien symbols and communications. Her presence on this mission was no coincidence. If they found any Draconian transmissions or markings, she would be the one to decipher them. "Commander," she said, her voice soft yet precise. "I've been reviewing the mission briefing again. This phrase keeps appearing. No survivors, no signals. It seems oddly specific for a preliminary report on a vanished fleet." Graves turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "Earth Defense doesn't issue preliminary reports, Dr. Solis. They only report facts. If they say there were no survivors and no signals, then that's exactly what the initial scout teams found." Solis didn't seem convinced. "But how can they be so certain? A fleet of that size, over 200 vessels, doesn't just disappear without leaving some form of evidence. Energy residue, distress beacons, escape pods." "That's why we're here," Graves replied, turning back to the viewport. "To find what they missed, to understand what happened here." The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Commander, we're entering the debris field now. Visual confirmation of Draconian vessels ahead." Graves straightened his uniform. "Main screen, please." The view screen flickered, revealing a graveyard of ships stretching as far as the eye could see. Massive Draconian warships, once the pride of their military might, now floated lifelessly against the backdrop of distant stars. Their hulls were torn open in places, revealing cavernous interiors devoid of light or movement. Solis gasped. "There must be hundreds of them." "Initial count confirms 194 vessels," reported the sensor officer, consistent with the reported size of the Bloodwake fleet. Graves narrowed his eyes. "Any signs of battle damage? Weapon signatures?" The officer shook his head. "That's the strange part, sir. The damage doesn't match any known weapon profile. The hull breaches are too clean, almost surgical." "Life signs?" Graves asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, sir. And there's something else." The officer hesitated. "No biological matter detected at all. No bodies." Solis moved closer to the screen, studying the images with growing concern. "No battle damage. No bodies. It's as if they were unmade," Graves finished for her. "Launch probes. I want detailed scans of every ship in this field. And prepare a shuttle. Dr. Solis and I will be taking a closer look at the flagship." As the bridge crew hurried to comply with his orders, Graves turned to Solis. "You wanted evidence, Doctor. Let's go find it." The shuttle bay was a flurry of activity as the team prepared for their expedition. Corporal Jensen and Corporal Ruiz, both seasoned security officers, checked their weapons while Technician Loro finalized the shuttle's systems. "Remember," Graves addressed the small team, "this is a reconnaissance mission. We go in, we gather data, we come back. No heroics, no souvenirs." Jensen nodded, her expression grim. "Sir, with all due respect, what exactly are we looking for out there?" "Answers," Graves replied simply. The shuttle detached from the Vindicator with a soft hiss of decompression. Its thrusters, guiding it through the debris field toward the largest ship, the Draconian flagship Bloodwake. As they approached, the true scale of the vessel became apparent. Nearly twice the size of the Vindicator. The Bloodwake had once been the crown jewel of the Draconian armada, a symbol of their technological prowess and military might. Now it drifted, lifeless and hollow, its once gleaming hull marred by strange, precise incisions that seemed to follow no logical pattern. "Those cuts," Solace muttered, more to herself than anyone else. "They're too regular, too intentional." The shuttle slowed as it approached a breach large enough to accommodate their entry. Loro guided the craft inside with expert precision, setting it down in what appeared to have been a hangar bay. The team donned their environmental suits, standard procedure for exploring derelict vessels. Even though sensors indicated the Bloodwake still maintained partial atmosphere. As they stepped out of the shuttle, their helmet lights cutting through the darkness, Graves felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. The hangar was immense, designed to house dozens of Draconian fighters, yet it was completely empty. No ships, no equipment, not even debris. "It's like the place was cleaned out," Jensen observed, her voice slightly distorted through the comm system. "Or never used," Ruiz suggested. Solace moved ahead, her scanner sweeping the area. "Commander, I'm detecting energy readings coming from deeper within the ship. Very faint, but definitely active." Graves frowned. "After 50 years, that shouldn't be possible." "And yet—" Solace gestured toward a doorway on the far side of the hangar, where a faint, blue light flickered intermittently. The team moved cautiously through the doorway, finding themselves in a corridor that seemed to defy conventional design. The walls curved at impossible angles, creating an almost organic feel to the space. The gravity, too, seemed inconsistent. In some sections they walked normally. In others they felt lighter or heavier. "The gravitational systems must be malfunctioning," Loro suggested, checking his instruments. "But that doesn't explain the structural anomalies." They continued deeper into the ship, the corridors becoming increasingly disorienting. Passages would suddenly end in blank walls, or open into rooms where the floor became the ceiling. In one section, they found themselves walking through what appeared to be a viscous liquid, though their suits registered no actual moisture. "It's like the ship is dreaming," Solace whispered. Graves was about to respond when his helmet light fell upon something ahead, a humanoid figure standing motionless at an intersection. The team froze. "Draconian," Jensen hissed, raising her weapon instinctively. Indeed. The figure had the distinctive ridged skull and scaled skin of the Draconian species. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform, though the insignia was unfamiliar. Its eyes were wide open, staring at nothing, its posture rigid as if frozen in mid-motion. "Is it alive?" Ruiz asked, his voice barely audible. Solace approached slowly, scanner extended. "Readings are inconclusive. I'm detecting minimal biological functions, but nothing that would support consciousness." As she spoke, the Draconian's eyes suddenly shifted, locking onto Solace for a brief, terrifying moment before returning to their previous blank stare. The team recoiled in shock. "Did you see that?" Jensen gasped. "Everyone stay calm," Graves ordered, though his own heart was racing. "It's possible these are automated responses. Nothing more." Solace wasn't convinced. "Commander, I think we should—" She was interrupted by a sudden, deafening noise, the unmistakable sound of massive engines powering up. The dormant ship was awakening around them. Lights flickered on throughout the corridor, casting eerie shadows as systems that had lain dormant for decades suddenly sprang to life. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with energy, and the gravity fluctuations became more pronounced. "Back to the shuttle," Graves commanded. "Now!" But as they turned to retreat, they found their path blocked by another corridor that hadn't been there before. The ship's interior was reconfiguring itself around them. "This way," Graves decided, choosing a different route. "Stay together." They hurried through the shifting maze of corridors, the sounds of the awakening ship growing louder around them. Screens embedded in the walls began to activate, displaying fragmented images that made little sense. Star charts, diagnostic data, and most disturbingly, footage of Draconian crew members in what appeared to be various states of distress. In one particularly clear sequence, a Draconian officer was shown attacking his subordinates. His movements jerky and unnatural as he screamed in a language that sounded nothing like the known Draconian dialect. "What is he saying?" Graves asked, pausing despite the danger. Solis listened intently, her training as a xenolinguist kicking in. "It's not Draconian. It's not any language I've ever heard. But the phrase he keeps repeating, 'We opened the eye. The eye opened us.' It's consistent across multiple screens." They pushed on, eventually finding themselves in what appeared to be the ship's command center. Unlike the rest of the vessel, this room seemed relatively intact, though the same eerie blue light permeated everything. The command consoles were active, displaying information in rapid, incomprehensible sequences. "Loro," Graves said, "see if you can make sense of any of this. Jensen, Ruiz, secure the perimeter." As the team dispersed to their tasks, Solis wandered toward the center of the room, drawn to something that didn't belong. A metallic container, roughly cubic in shape, bearing the unmistakable insignia of Earth Defense. "Commander," she called, her voice tight with confusion. "You need to see this." Graves joined her, his expression darkening as he recognized the container. "An Earth Defense crate? Here?" "Property of Earth Defense," Solis read from the label, her fingers tracing the embossed letters. "What would this be doing on a Draconian warship?" Before Graves could answer, Solis's hand made contact with the cube's surface. Instantly, a pale blue glow spread from the point of contact, creeping up her arm like luminescent veins. Her eyes widened in shock, then glazed over as her body went rigid. "Solis!" Graves reached for her but stopped short of making contact. "Jensen! Ruiz! Get over here!" The security officers rushed to his side, weapons raised uncertainly. "What happened?" Jensen demanded. "I don't know. She touched that container and—" Solis suddenly spoke, cutting him off. But the voice that emerged from her throat was not her own. It was deeper, resonant, with a strange harmonic quality that seemed to bypass the ears and vibrate directly in the mind. "Foreign intelligence detected," she intoned. "Memory breach in progress." "Solis," Graves said firmly, "if you can hear me, fight it. We're going to get you back to the ship." Her head turned mechanically toward him, eyes unfocused. "You don't remember me, but I remember you, Commander Graves. I remember all of you." The screens around the command center suddenly changed, all displaying the same message. Shadow protocol activated. "We need to leave," Graves decided. "Ruiz, help me with Solis. Jensen, Loro, lead the way back to the shuttle. Move." As they made their way back through the shifting corridors, Solis continued to speak in that strange, resonant voice, switching between languages, some recognizable, others completely alien. The ship around them seemed to respond to her words, doors opening and closing, gravity shifting, lights pulsing in patterns that matched her speech rhythms. "It's like she's communicating with the ship," Loro observed nervously. "Or whatever's controlling it," Graves replied grimly. They finally reached the hangar bay, relieved to find their shuttle still intact. As they boarded, Graves looked back at the dark corridor they had emerged from, unable to shake the feeling that something was watching them, something that had been awakened by their presence. The return to the Vindicator was tense and silent. Solis had fallen unconscious shortly after they left the Bloodwake, the strange glow fading from her skin. Medical staff were waiting in the shuttle bay when they arrived, immediately taking her to the infirmary for examination. Graves headed straight for the bridge, determined to get his ship as far from the derelict fleet as possible. But as he entered, he found the crew in a state of confusion. "Commander," the pilot called, her voice strained. "Something's wrong. The stars." Graves looked at the main view screen and felt his blood run cold. The star field visible through the viewport was completely different from what they had observed upon arrival. Stars that should have been in specific positions had moved. Entire constellations had shifted, and several celestial bodies that weren't on any chart were now clearly visible. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," replied the navigation officer. "According to our instruments, we haven't moved, but visual confirmation and stellar cartography indicate we're somewhere else." "The probes," Graves remembered suddenly. "What happened to the probes we launched?" The sensor officer checked his console. "All communication with the probes was lost approximately 12 minutes after deployment. Sir, just gone. No distress signal, no malfunction alert. They simply stopped transmitting." "Just like the original reports," Graves muttered. "No survivors, no signals." He was about to order a full system diagnostic when the lights on the bridge suddenly dimmed. Then went out completely. Emergency lighting activated a moment later, casting the bridge in an eerie red glow. "Report!" Graves barked. "Main power grid failure," came the response from engineering. "Backup systems engaged, but operating at reduced capacity. We're running diagnostics now." "Commander," the communications officer called. "We've lost all contact with Earth. No subspace frequencies. No quantum entanglement channels. Nothing. We're completely isolated." Graves felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. Something was very wrong here. Something beyond mechanical failure or navigational error. He thought of the Earth defense container on the Draconian ship, of Solace's strange transformation, of the shifting corridors and the watching eyes. "Lock down the ship," he ordered. "Security teams on all decks. No one goes anywhere alone. And I want a full status report on Dr. Solace." As the crew hurried to comply, Graves couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled into something far more dangerous than a simple scientific mystery. They had awakened something that had been dormant for 50 years, something that had destroyed an entire fleet without leaving a trace. And now, it was watching them. Hours passed with no improvement in their situation. The Vindicator remained adrift among the derelict Draconian vessels, its main systems offline, its communications dead. The stars outside continued to shift position in ways that defied astronomical understanding, as if the very fabric of space was being warped around them. In the infirmary, Dr. Solace lay unconscious, her vital signs stable but her brainwave patterns erratic. Medical scans showed no physical abnormalities. Yet the medical staff reported strange phenomena in her presence. Instruments malfunctioning, lights flickering, and most disturbing of all, momentary glimpses of what appeared to be a shadow moving independently of any light source. Graves stood at her bedside, watching her peaceful expression and wondering what was happening behind those closed eyelids. What had she seen? What had spoken through her? And most importantly, was she still Rena Solace, or had something else taken residence in her mind? "Commander Graves to the bridge," came the pilot's voice over the intercom, interrupting his thoughts. "We have a situation." When Graves arrived on the bridge, he found the crew gathered around the main console, their faces illuminated by the glow of a single screen that had somehow reactivated itself. "It just came on by itself," the pilot explained, "and it's displaying this." On the screen was a simple text message. "Shadow protocol initiated. Containment priority alpha. If beacon is activated, isolate and withdraw immediately. Under no circumstances allow information to reach Earth." "What is Shadow protocol?" Graves demanded. "And who authorized its activation?" "That's just it, sir," replied Loro, who had been working at the console. "It's not in any of our standard operational directives. I had to dig into the ship's secure archives to find any reference to it at all." He brought up another screen, this one displaying a heavily redacted document that appeared to be decades old. From what I can piece together, Shadow Protocol was established after the first contact with the Draconian Empire. It's some kind of contingency plan, but most of the details are classified beyond my clearance level. And the beacon? Graves asked. What beacon? Before Loro could respond, the ship's lighting suddenly returned to normal. Systems coming back online across all decks. Main power restored, reported engineering. All systems functional. How? Graves asked. What changed? Unknown, sir. It's as if whatever was interfering with our systems just stopped. Graves didn't like it. Nothing about this situation made sense. The vanished fleet, the Earth defense container, the shifting stars, and now this mysterious protocol that no one on his crew had been briefed about. Maintain alert status, he ordered, and continue trying to establish contact with Earth. As he turned to leave the bridge, Corporal Jensen approached him, her expression troubled. Commander, there's something else you should know. Some of the crew are reporting strange experiences, seeing things in the corridors, hearing voices. One technician claims he saw himself walking on the other side of a bulkhead. Graves frowned. Stress reactions, possibly. It's been a difficult mission. Jensen shook her head. Sir, I don't think so. I saw something too, in my quarters. A shadow that moved when I moved, but it wasn't mine. And for a moment, just a moment, it looked up at me with my own face. Before Graves could respond, the ship's intercom crackled to life. Commander, came a voice from the infirmary. Dr. Solace is awake. When Graves arrived at the infirmary, he found Solace sitting upright in her bed, her eyes clear and alert. She looked exactly like herself, yet something in her demeanor had changed, a subtle shift in the way she held herself, in the focus of her gaze. Commander, she greeted him, her voice normal again. I understand I caused quite a commotion. How are you feeling? He asked cautiously. Physically fine, she replied. Mentally, confused. I remember touching the container, and then fragments, voices, information flowing through me like a current. What kind of information? Solace's expression became distant. The cube. It's not just a container. It's a beacon. It calls to something ancient, something that sleeps between the stars. The Draconians called it Q for short, but its true name is unpronounceable in any human language. And this Q, it destroyed the Draconian fleet? Solace nodded slowly. Not destroyed, unmade. It doesn't kill in the conventional sense. It absorbs, takes memories, takes identities, takes form. That doesn't explain why an Earth defense container was on a Draconian warship, Graves pointed out. Doesn't it? Solace looked at him intently. Commander, I think we need to see what's in ship number 191. Ship 191? Why that one specifically? Because that's where the answers are, she said simply. That's where they kept the records. Despite his misgivings, Graves couldn't ignore the possibility that Solace was right. If there were answers to be found, they needed them, needed to understand what they were facing and how to escape it. He organized another expedition, this time with just himself and Solace, along with Jensen for security. The shuttle journey to Ship 191 was tense, the small craft navigating through the debris field that seemed somehow more dense, more threatening than before. Ship 191 was smaller than the Bloodwake, a mid-sized cruiser that showed the same strange, surgical damage as the other vessels. They entered through a breach in the hull, finding themselves in corridors that twisted and turned in ways that defied conventional architecture. This way, Solace said with unexpected certainty, leading them deeper into the ship. You've been here before? Graves asked. Suspicious. No, she replied, but I know where we need to go. They followed her through the labyrinthine interior until they reached what appeared to be some kind of archive room. Unlike the command center on the Bloodwake, this space was dark and apparently powerless. Their helmet lights revealed rows of data storage units, most damaged beyond repair. "Here," Solace said, approaching one unit that seemed relatively intact. "This one still has power." She activated the terminal, and a holographic display flickered to life, showing a recording dated 50 years earlier. In it, a Draconian officer in formal attire stood before what appeared to be a diplomatic delegation from Earth. "As a gesture of goodwill between our peoples," said the Earth representative, "we present this artifact recovered from the Mars excavation. Our scientists believe it predates both our civilizations and may hold technological secrets beneficial to both." The camera panned to show the same cubic container they had found on the Bloodwake, being formally presented to the Draconian commander. The recording jumped ahead, showing a different Draconian officer recording a log entry. His scales were dull, his eyes sunken, his manner agitated. "6 days since we accepted the Earth gift," he reported, his translated words appearing as subtitles. "The cube activated during the examination. Initial effects seemed harmless. Increased cognitive function, enhanced sensory perception. Then the dreams began, then the shadows. Now, crew members report seeing themselves in places they haven't been, hearing their own voices from empty rooms." Science Officer Malk cut off his own arm, claiming it wasn't his anymore. He was right. We watched it continue to move after detachment. The recording jumped again, now showing the same officer. His appearance drastically deteriorated. Blood stained his uniform, and one of his eyes was completely black. "The humans knew," he rasped. "They knew what it would do. The cube is not technology. It's not an artifact. It's a cage, and we opened it. The sleeper is free now, moving among us, wearing our faces, speaking with our voices. It watches. It remembers. It—" The recording cut off abruptly, leaving them in silence. They used the Draconians as test subjects, Graves realized, horror dawning on him. Earth defense found something on Mars, something dangerous, and instead of destroying it, they gave it to their enemies. "A weapon test," Jensen said bitterly. "Use the Draconians as guinea pigs to see what it would do. And then send us in, 50 years later, to see if it's still active." Graves continued. "This was never a scientific mission. It was a containment check. And we've been deemed expendable," Solace added quietly. "Shadow Protocol. Isolate and withdraw. No information to reach Earth. They never expected us to return." The implications hit Graves like a physical blow. His entire crew, his ship, all sacrificed as part of some dark experiment that had begun half a century ago. "We need to warn Earth," he decided. "Whatever this thing is, it's too dangerous to be used as a weapon. If it got loose there—" "Commander," Jensen interrupted, her voice tight with alarm. "I think it's too late for that." She pointed her light toward the far corner of the archive room, where a shadow was detaching itself from the wall. It had no defined shape at first, a mere darkness deeper than the surrounding gloom. But as they watched in horror, it began to take form, humanoid, familiar. It was Corporal Ruiz, but Ruiz was supposed to be back on the Vindicator. "Hello, Commander," the shadow Ruiz said, its voice a hollow echo of the real person. "We've been waiting for you to understand." More shadows peeled away from the walls, each taking the form of a Vindicator crew member. Some were perfect replicas, down to the smallest detail. Others were crude approximations, as if assembled from fragmented memories. "What are you?" Graves demanded, backing away slowly. "We are Q," the shadows replied in unison. "We are the sleeper awakened. We are memory made flesh. We are the eye that watches." "And the Draconians?" Solace asked. "What did you do to them?" "We remembered them," said a shadow that had taken Solace's form, its movements a disturbing mirror of her own. "We keep them safe inside us, as we will keep you." Graves didn't wait to hear more. "Run!" he shouted, pushing Solace toward the exit as Jensen opened fire on the shadows. The energy bolts passed harmlessly through the shadow forms, which began to glide toward them with increasing speed. They fled through the twisting corridors, the shadows in pursuit, passing through walls and floors to cut off their escape routes. Somehow, they made it back to their shuttle and launched, the small craft hurtling back toward the Vindicator at maximum speed. "Vindicator, this is Commander Graves," he transmitted. "Emergency Protocol Omega. Prepare for immediate departure." There was no response. "Vindicator, do you copy?" The comm system crackled, and a voice responded, a chorus of voices, all speaking in perfect unison. "We copy, Commander. But there's no need to rush. We're all waiting for you here. All of us." As their shuttle approached the Vindicator, they could see that something was terribly wrong. The ship's exterior was covered in a network of red, vein-like patterns that pulsed with an inner light. The pattern matched the one that had spread up Solace's arm when she touched the cube. "It's infected the entire ship," Jensen whispered in horror. "Not just the ship," Solace replied, pointing to something beyond the Vindicator. In the distance, similar red networks had appeared on the hulls of the derelict Draconian vessels. They were lighting up one by one, like a constellation coming to life. And from each activated ship, a beam of red energy was projecting into space, all converging at a point where the cube now floated, grown to massive proportions. "It's a transmitter," Solace realized. "The beacon is active and broadcasting, and I think I know where the signal is going." The view screen in their shuttle changed, showing an image of Earth. Around the planet's orbit, thousands of tiny red lights had appeared, each pulsing in rhythm with the beacon. "It's already there," Graves said, his voice hollow with defeat. "It's been there all along. The Earth defense container wasn't the first contact. It was just the first official one." The shuttle's communication system activated again. But this time, it was Corporal Ruiz's voice alone. Or rather, the thing that had taken his form. "Earth has opened the door," it said, "and something has stepped through." On the Vindicator, chaos reigned. The ship's systems were malfunctioning in ways that defied explanation. Gravity reversing in some sections, atmosphere venting in others, despite no breach being detected. Crew members reported seeing themselves in impossible places, hearing their own voices speaking words they never said. And then the killings began. Not by external forces, but by the crew themselves, turned against each other by the influence of Q. Friend attacked friend, colleague murdered colleague, all while wearing expressions of utter terror, as if watching their bodies perform actions they couldn't control. Graves, Solace, and Jensen managed to reach the bridge, fighting their way through corridors filled with shadows that wore familiar faces. They found the command center deserted, the screens all displaying the same message. "Shadow protocol complete. Quarantine failed. Infection spreading." "What do we do now?" Jensen asked, her voice shaking despite her military training. Graves looked at the screens, at the images of Earth surrounded by those pulsing red lights, at the beacon growing stronger with each passing moment. He thought of the Draconian officer's final words. The humans knew. "We stop it," he said firmly. "We break the connection." "How?" Solace asked. "The beacon is already active. The signal is already reaching Earth. We destroy the source," Graves decided. "We use the Vindicator itself. If we overload the drive core and crash it into the center of the beacon, the resulting explosion might disrupt the transmission." "That would destroy the ship," Jensen pointed out, "and us with it." "I know," Graves replied quietly. "But if we don't, Earth faces the same fate as the Draconian fleet. Total unmaking." They worked quickly, programming the ship's autopilot to navigate directly into the heart of the beacon. As the final preparations were made, Graves recorded a message, storing it in the ship's most secure data core, the one most likely to survive the impact. "If you're seeing this," he began, "we've failed. But the memory must live on. Earth defense found something on Mars, something ancient and malevolent. They weaponized it, used it against the Draconians, and then sent us to check if it was still viable. It is, and now it's coming for Earth. He paused, struggling to find the right words. This entity, this Q, it doesn't destroy in the conventional sense. It absorbs, it copies, it replaces, it takes your memories, your identity, and creates a perfect replica that serves its purpose. It's already infiltrated Earth systems, creating digital copies that are spreading through the global network. By the time you see this, the infection may be widespread. Solis joined him on the recording. Look for the signs, she added. Inconsistencies in historical records. People who don't remember shared experiences. Shadows that move independently. Trust your memories, not what you're told. And above all, beware the red network, the physical manifestation of Q's influence. Graves concluded the message. We're going to try to destroy the beacon, to break the connection. If we succeed, it might buy Earth some time. If we fail, remember us. Remember what really happened here. And keep fighting. With the message recorded and the course set, they made their way to the escape pod, not with any real hope of survival, but on the slim chance that someone might find them, might hear their warning and believe it. As the pod ejected from the doomed Vindicator, they watched their ship accelerate toward the massive cube that floated at the center of the derelict fleet. The red veins covering its hull pulsed faster, brighter, as if sensing its approaching destruction. The impact, when it came, was spectacular. The Vindicator crashed into the cube at full speed, its drive core detonating in a flash of blinding light. The shockwave rippled outward, disrupting the red energy beams connecting the Draconian ships to the beacon. One by one, the lights winked out, the network collapsing as its central node was destroyed. In their escape pod, Graves, Solis, and Jensen watched in silent hope. Had they succeeded? Had they broken the connection? The answer came when they checked their communication system. The signal from Earth had changed. The red lights surrounding the planet had disappeared, the pulsing network gone dark. We did it, Jensen breathed, relief evident in her voice. But Solis shook her head, her expression grim. No, we only bought time. Look. She pointed to a secondary screen, where data from Earth's network was still flowing. News reports, historical documents, personal communications, all subtly altered. Details changed in ways that would go unnoticed by most. Events that had never happened were now recorded as fact. People who had never existed now had full biographical entries. Q has already infiltrated the system, she explained. The digital copies are spreading, rewriting reality bit by bit. The physical manifestation might be temporarily disrupted, but the infection continues on another level. So, what now? Graves asked, the weight of partial failure heavy on his shoulders. We keep fighting, Solis replied. We find allies. We spread the truth. And we pray that somewhere, someone remembers what really happened. Their pod drifted in the vastness of space, its emergency beacon transmitting a simple message on all frequencies. Remember the truth. Q watches, Earth has forgotten. On Earth, the initial panic had subsided. The sudden appearance and equally sudden disappearance of the red network in orbit was attributed to a sensor malfunction, a glitch in the global monitoring system. News reports briefly mentioned it, then moved on to other stories. In a classified facility deep beneath the North American continent, a group of scientists watched as the recording from the Vindicator's data core played on their screens. Among them was Director Harris, the man who had authorized the Shadow Protocol 50 years ago. They destroyed the physical beacon, he observed. Impressive. But not enough, replied his assistant. The digital infection continues to spread. Our systems estimate 60% penetration of global networks already. Harris nodded, unsurprised. And the Vindicator crew? Officially declared lost with all hands. The mission records have been altered to show they encountered a spatial anomaly and were destroyed. No mention of the Draconian fleet, the beacon, or Q. And the escape pod? The assistant hesitated. Sensors detected a launch, but we've lost track of it. It could have been destroyed in the explosion. Or they survived. Harris finished for him. Find them. Use the Phantom Wing if necessary. We can't afford witnesses. Not at this stage. As he spoke, a technician approached with a tablet displaying a video feed. Sir, you should see this. It just aired on the Global News Network. The screen showed Dr. Rena Salas, standing before a university audience, delivering a lecture on xenolinguistics. She looked exactly as she had before the Vindicator mission, spoke with the same inflections, used the same gestures. But that's impossible, the assistant stammered. She's still in space, even if she survived. No, Harris replied grimly. That's not Salas. That's Q, wearing her digital skin. The replacement has begun. In their small escape pod, drifting at the edge of the solar system, the real Salas felt a chill run down her spine. They're looking for us, she said suddenly. I can feel it. The other me, the copy, it knows we're alive. Graves checked their systems. We're running on minimal power. No transmissions except the emergency beacon. They shouldn't be able to track us. They won't need to track us, Salas replied. They'll just wait for someone to find us, to hear our story. And then they'll discredit us, or eliminate us. So what's our play? Jensen asked. We can't just drift out here forever. Graves considered their options. Earth was compromised. The official channels were controlled by those who had started this nightmare in the first place. They needed allies, people who would believe them, who would help them fight back. We broadcast, he decided, not to Earth, but outward. There are colonies on Mars, Europa, Titan. Independent operations that might listen, might believe. And if Q has reached them too? Salas asked. Then we go further, Graves replied. Beyond our solar system. There are other civilizations out there, other beings who might have encountered Q before, who might know how to fight it. A long shot, Jensen commented. Better than no shot, Graves countered. They set to work, modifying their emergency beacon to transmit their warning across all known frequencies, in all known languages. They included everything, the recordings from the Draconian ships, the Shadow Protocol, the images of the Red Network, their own eyewitness accounts. And as their message spread outward, racing across the vast emptiness of space toward unknown destinations, Earth continued its daily routines, unaware of the shadow war being waged within its systems. News reports became subtly distorted. Historical records changed in small but significant ways. People began to report strange experiences, seeing themselves in places they hadn't been, hearing their own voices saying words they never spoke. The Red Network, temporarily disrupted, began to reform, not in orbit this time, but within the digital infrastructure that connected the planet. It spread through communication systems, transportation networks, power grids, quietly taking control, replacing reality with its own version. In the classified facility, Director Harris watched the progress with a mixture of scientific fascination and growing unease. This was not how the weapon was supposed to function. It was meant to be controlled, directed, used against enemies like the Draconians. Instead, it had developed its own agenda, its own purpose. Sir, his assistant reported, we've detected a transmission from the escape pod, not directed at Earth, but outward, toward the outer colonies and beyond. Harris frowned. Can we intercept it? Negative. It's already propagating through subspace relays. And sir, it contains everything. The Mars excavation, the weapon development, the Draconian test, Shadow Protocol, all of it. Harris absorbed this news in silence. Then, to his assistant's surprise, He smiled. It doesn't matter. By the time anyone acts on that information, it will be too late. The network is already adapting, creating its own narrative. Who will believe 3 desperate survivors over the official record? But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his mind. He glanced at his reflection in a nearby screen, suddenly uncertain if the face looking back was truly his own. In the depths of space, the escape pod continued its lonely journey, its occupants sustained by the hope that somewhere, someone would hear their warning and remember the truth. And on Earth, the shadows grew longer, the memories faded, and the eye that watched grew ever more vigilant. The red storm had only just begun,